supervisor of the START program. I'm very happy that all of you are able to attend. We have a nice mix of folks here today. We have some full-time staff, we have some STAR students, we have some STCs, and of course we have our presenter. I'd like to introduce him. This is Brian Allen, and his topic today is Spammer in Plain Sight. This is a first class and a two-part class on computer security. A little bit about Brian. He's worked as the network security analyst here at Washington University since November of 2005. He has an honors Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics from St. Louis University. Prior to working at Washington University, he worked in security analyst in security analysis at both the University of Missouri St. Louis and the University of Maryland in University College. He presented this particular topic at the EDUCAUSE Security Professionals Conference in Atlanta, Georgia last April. So we're very pleased that he's with us this afternoon to present it to us. Turn it over to Brian.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk about an incident that happened on campus last year. And what I've done is I've put it together like a story. And when I gave this talk at EDUCAUSE down in Atlanta, it was listed under one of the technical presentations, because they have lots of different types. And so what I've done is there are some technical parts to the presentation, but the storyline is easily understood by anyone. So hopefully the storyline will be interesting, and we'll get through the technical stuff in the middle. So first, I had a slide for the EDUCAUSE people about Washington University, which you already know all about us, but I do want to focus on the last line here. We're going to talk about our decentralized campus network to give an idea of how this incident played out. So first, many students in this classroom may or may not know that the internet comes into a group called NSS, or Network Services and Support. So we're like the ISP for the university. So we handle, among many other things, we've got all the core routers on campus, we've got most of the switches on campus, mail gateway, all of the major DNS servers, all the wireless. And I am the network security office. We have a team of one, namely me right now, and I work very closely with NSS, so I'm part of that group. So we hand out the internet access to all the different schools. Now at each school, I've got two contacts. Whenever I have a security incident, I have good relationships with each contact at each school or department. And the deal is I promise not to waste their time with false positives. I'm not going to send them running on wild goose chases. And they're very good about responding quickly and properly when I send them some sort of complaint that I get some effective machine that you find. So today we're going to talk about a few things. First, we've got a hacked website. That's what this incident was. It was a hacked website on campus. We had a bunch of false paths that we had to go down before we figured out what was going on. We're going to investigate the hacker's script. There's some of the technical stuff in there, what he was doing. Who did it, who was behind the hack, that can be very difficult to determine many times. And finally, we're going to go hunting these spammers ourselves. So part one is this hacked website. So this incident involved a Solaris 10 machine in the department, and it was running all sorts of services. It had many users on it, lots of accounts. It was running an Apache web server. Lots of PHP web applications like blogs, online calendar, things like that. I was running the Drupal content management system. And the way the story came down was I got an email from a man at Yahoo. His name was Michael Wexler. And his signature on the email said he was the vice president for marketing. So he was telling me that he was checking some things out at Yahoo, and he came across a website of ours that had a bunch of spam data, a bunch of spam junk was on this webpage. And so he sent it to me just to let us know about it, because he was finding other people with the same problem. Well, I was a little suspicious. Why is the vice president of marketing emailing me this stuff? Usually I talk to security contacts at Yahoo, not marketing people. So I checked him out, and he really is the marketing guy, but he just is a good net citizen. He was contacting people like us to let us know that our website looked strange. So the first thing I did when I got the email was go take a look at the website. So now I have to point out here that the web server in question, the website in question, and the department, they've been completely sanitized from the top. I have substituted in my old department's name, which was NTS. So all the websites you see, all the URLs you see are going to say NTS. So I'm never going to mention the original department. So I went to the web page, and here's what it looked like. Remember, this wasn't the real site. But, you know, it had the right banner on the top, it had some news on the left, contacts at the bottom. The page looks fine to me. But, remember, this is the theme of the talk here. We have despair, it's hiding in plain sight. This is the image that Michael Wexler sent to me. So this is what he saw from his desk at Yahoo. Same website, except at the bottom, all this spam junk has been shoved into the bottom. And it's just a bunch of text with a bunch of links sprinkled throughout. So there's two things that I noticed. One right away, and the second after a bunch of digging. So this text here is cut and pasted from the actual incident and put onto this slide. So it's the real text. All I've done is I've taken these links. The link is Paxil Effect on Creativity. And that links to a website called johnmott.com. So I typed out the word johnmott.com so you all can see where it's going. And I made it bold. And it's got this / question mark V dash and this long string of letters. And there's another link here, expired albuterol inhaler. And that was a link which takes you to hiddenbeach.com / question mark V dash. And again, a long string. So these are, that's the first thing I noticed, was all these links. The second thing I noticed was when I did a little research to track down who owned these websites, they're all owned by a company called DreamHost. DreamHost is a web hosting company. They host hundreds and hundreds of websites. So these are all DreamHost sites. So this is kind of an interesting observation, and it turns out they were hacked at the same time too. So this is going to give you an idea of just how much spam data that he shoved into the web page. This is the normal web page, and here is all the spam data that he shoved in. All the blue lines you see there, those are the links that he sprinkled throughout there. 25 different links. And all with that same / the question mark, dash, all that same string. It's called a query string on the end. That query string is going to be important. It's part of the hack. So I can see this web page image that he sent me, but now we need to figure out what's going on. So we all remember our Sherlock Holmes, and we need to start eliminating what it can't be. So let's talk about the first thing I did. I sent it to the department. I contacted the department and I said, check out your web server. Tell me what you see. Tell me if you think this guy at Yahoo has got anything. Because remember, it's not my machine. I don't control anything on any of these schools' departments. So he replies back very shortly after, and he said, web server looks fine, web page looks fine. I checked out the HTML, it looks fine. It must be Yahoo, not us. Okay, so maybe it's Yahoo. We got to do a little more digging, I think. So I did some Googling for anybody else maybe having this type of a problem, and I found a blog by a guy named Ben Smedberg, and he says in the middle of his blog he's got the same problem. His web page now has a spam junk in it. And he says, I submitted a ticket with DreamHost yesterday. Their support staff responded that this must not be a DreamHost issue. It must be a problem with Google. Where have we heard that before? It's never us. It's always the other person. So it must be Yahoo and Google. Maybe they're both wrong. But I didn't think that this was a very likely case. that Yahoo and Google would both be wrong in terms of having web pages with a bunch of spam data on them. So I sent it back to my my contact over there. He said, do some more checking. Do a little more analysis and investigation on it. Tell me what else you see. I told him, look for, here's some tools you can run. Check and see what processes are running. He comes back a little while later and says, we found it. There was a world writable calendar where anybody in the world could go and type in their events on the web. And people had been using it to show spam information in those calendar entries. We cleaned it up, we locked it down so only Washington University students can use it. Problem solved. I said, great. Problem solved. So I waited a few days. I emailed Michael Wexler. I said, so we think we fixed it. Can you let me know what you see over there at Yahoo? And he said, nope, still there. So we found an incident. We just didn't find this incident. So another false path. There is a type of attack called ARP cache poisoning, which I'm not going to go into detail here, but we spent a lot of time thinking maybe that the attacker had infected another machine on this same subnet as the web server, and he was attacking it through that machine. So we looked at ARP cache requests, ARP replies, we looked for strange MAC addresses on the network, and everything looked normal and fine. So we've eliminated that as a possibility too. So at this point, you have to just take a time out and start watching your favorite TV show, The IT Crowd, and ask, what would Roy do? Anybody watch The IT Crowd, or at least know about it? You should watch it. There are a bunch of IT geeks in Britain, and his favorite line to say is, have you tried turning it off and back on again? So I tried to convince the department to do that, but they wouldn't go for it. So that was out. So at this point, we figured they must have control of the web server somehow. Maybe they haven't changed the page, but they're controlling the web server, making it do these strange things. So we started looking for, those weird strings that we saw on those links. We started looking through those. We started looking through files for strings like that. We finally found some. And when we found the first file, that led to another file, which led to a number of other files that all were definitely strange, definitely didn't belong there. And when we looked at those files, we could see that they had more access than just the web server. The only way they could put those files on there was if they had root. So what root is, they had full control of the entire box. This is the absolute worst kind of hack that you could ever have. It's basically the administrator's nightmare to have your box be rooted. So now we need to look through these files and figure out what the heck's going on, what's the spammer trying to do. So we're going to go through these five files. And there's a little bit of technical jargon in here, but we'll get through it, and the storyline will pick up right away, and you'll see how the hacker was using these files to run his hack. The 5 files involved are, first we have, remember, it's running Apache web server, so there's a configuration file. There's Apache can do something called a mod rewrite, which means that you get a web request, and then the Apache web server will take that request and change it to look like something else. It will rewrite it. So this is a very legitimate thing that lots of webmasters will use. And the hacker can also use it to his advantage. There's this file here called x-text.xml. It had a long list of web pages from our site. This next file is xml.dbm or -dbm. This was a long list of subnets. An IP address has 4 octets. These were just 3 octets, and we'll take a look at that file. And finally, there was this spec.php script. This was the hacker's script where all the magic happened. We'll take a look at that too. So the first file on the list, there's only one line involved. The entire conf file was left alone except for one line, and it was this line: include map.my. So when you see the word include in an Apache configuration file, it says go out to that file and grab in everything you see in map.my. So what that means is it's a long configuration file. The system administrator probably didn't notice the one line. that said go out and grab this information at map.mine. And map.mine it sounds boring, it sounds legitimate, it might have been there for years. So that went undetected. Here's the first text file. This has a long list of websites, or websites from our campus. Remember, NTS isn't the real site, but they had like /about, /news, /teaching, 150 lines long. And on the second column, on each corresponding line, there was that spec script again. So he's going to run the script. And he's added in this query string here. Each one has a different number, 1 through 150. This query string is very important in the hack, we'll see. The next text file was just this left side here. Long list of subnets with the word yes at, about 4,000 of them. So I started looking up to see who owned these subnets. And it turns out nearly all of them were search engines. And so I put the search engine that corresponds with these next to it on the side. You can see Yahoo, Google, and Ink2Me. So that's a strange, sort of an interesting observation. What's he doing with all these search engines? Again, another important part of this hack. So this is this is a little more of a dense file. So we're going to go into this file and we're going to break it down. This is the map.mine file. This is where all the mod rewrite stuff is happening. He's taking the request that comes into the web server and he's going to rewrite it to look like something else. So this is what he's doing. First two lines, he's just setting up these two variables, PFGM and ISSI. So anytime you see those variables on the script, he's just going to substitute in the text.xml and the XML underscore DBM. So you can see he's substituting them here and here and here. So that takes care of the first two lines. Let's break down this first block, and then we're going to break down the second block. So here's the first block. We'll blow it up nice and big. So the way mod rewrite commands work is, the first condition is satisfied, it goes on to the next one. The second condition is satisfied, then it will run this rule. If either of these conditions are failed, then it just skips down to the next block. So what does this hacker want? He's looking for any request to the web server that has this weird long string. So if somebody was to type in a URL and it had this long string in it, then this would be satisfied. And it would go on here to the next one. This one is saying the PFGM file. This was the long list of websites. So if you are on this list of websites, remember those 150. So if you have the string and you're on the list of websites, then you're good. So then we're going to rewrite the rule. And we're going to rewrite it to look like, and we'll look at examples of exactly how it's rewritten. So this is a big mess of the lines. We won't break down each how the line goes. So now here's the second block. And what the hacker is trying to do in this block is, the first line is, he's looking for, you recognize these here, 0 through 9, 0 through 9. This is an IP address. So he's looking at the IP address. And specifically, he's put parentheses around the first 3 octets. Well, where have we seen 3 octets before in this hack? In that text file with a long list of search engines. So the whole point of these commands here is, he wants to know, did the request come from a search engine? If it came from a search engine, then keep moving. Keep them going on down the line. Did it not start with a P dash? Then move on. And this last one just says, we don't want any IP addresses. We only want requests that actually ask for the host name, like nts.woosle.edu. So if all those are satisfied, basically if it's from a search engine, then we're going to rewrite it to look like this. And we'll look at the exact example in a second. So we've got 3 cases. The hacker's trying to account for all these different cases so that the right people see his stuff and the wrong people don't see it. The first case is, one of us sits down at our desk here at Washington University and goes to nts.woosle.edu. Goes into the web server, starts running the mod rewrite commands. And it fails the first block. It failed the first block because it doesn't have that long string on the end. It doesn't have the long P dash string thing on here, so it fails. So what happens? Nothing. It fails the first block, and then it fails the second block because we're not a search engine. We're a WashU. So WashU users see the normal page. And that's exactly what happened to me when I was sitting at my desk. I pulled up the website. But totally normal. All right, case 2 is a little complicated. Let's say that we have a Google spider crawling the web, and it was crawling it from that spam page with all the junk on it. So it has those 25 links. So it's going to hit that first block, and it's going to satisfy that first condition. Remember, it wanted to see if there was that question mark P dash thing. So that was a yes. So it's going to rewrite the Google query, the Google bot query, to look like this. It changes it to add the subinfo / spec script. So now it's going to run the spec script, and it's going to add this query string at the end. So that's what the mod rewrite line did. Made it look like that. Now, this is not the case that we're going to go into. The case that we're going to investigate is this third case. I tried to get that second case to work, because I had the code in front of me, and I tried to make a little environment where I could try to make it work, but I think the hacker didn't write the script properly, so that case never worked. But this third case, this was the most important one, and this worked well. So we're going to take a look at this one. So let's say we have a Google bot. It's crawling the web, doing its thing, and it comes to just a regular website here at WashU, nts.woost.edu. So it fails the first block, but then it matches the second because it's from Google. This is the key that the hacker wants. He's looking for any search engine that's going to get rewritten to look like this, nts.woost.edu /subinfo / spec script. Now this, remember where that line came from? It was from that text file. It was in that second column, and it had this number 1 through 150. So that's how he's going to use it right there. You'll see in a second what's going to happen. So now, the mod rewrite change has happened. The spec script is going to run. So here's the magic, and let's see what's going to happen. So it's a long script, but I've highlighted the important lines. First, and I'll give a shout out to Jason over there who helped me go through the script, because it was quite long, and it was written by a hacker, so it wasn't very user-friendly to read. So first, he sets up 8 IP addresses. These are the hacker's servers. And we're going to take a look and see where they are in the world. Now, I've sanitized them so that nobody goes looking for them. But these are the 8 servers. He uses this range command, which is random. It's going to randomly pick a number between 0 and 8, which then will pick one of these IPs. So the spec script is running. It's going to pick one of the 8 IP addresses that he owns. And now it's going to run this fsoc open command, meaning he's going to open a connection to that IP address, that's his, on port 80. And port 80 means the web server port. He's making a web connection to his server. And what's he going to do once he goes to that web server? That's the next line. He's going to get /feed /fake pages / this $CID .html. So he's going to grab some web page. Now $CID matches earlier in the script. He's assigned these variables to mean different things. The $CID has been set up to match the 00001 number. So just remember, the CID is going to be 000001. So what does this mean? So he's rewritten the command to run the spec script, which is now going out to a web server somewhere in the world and grabbing this web page. And it's going to look like the thing Michael Wexler saw at Yahoo, because he's a search engine company. What this means is he has copied every single one of our web pages and stored it on his servers. That means he has complete access to change the web pages however he wants, because they're his servers. And then he's going to go grab the page that he's going to go grab the page that was requested, from his server and deliver that one. Well, he's changed it to add all that spam junk on it and all those links. So if you're sitting in Washington University, you get the null page. If you're sitting in Yahoo, search engine, determines rankings, then you're going to see a different page, the page that he has set up on his own site. So this is pretty unbelievable. It took me a while to wrap my head around this, that he's actually downloaded all of our web pages, all of them, 150, and stored them on his servers. But there's at least one piece of information on this page that lends that to that idea. I mean, he's calling it feed/fake pages. So that's a good sign that we're on the right track. And here's the other one. Let's take a look at our original hacked web page that Michael Wexler sent us. So it's a very, very dense, and this font is small, so you might not have noticed this. But if you look in the links here, he's included a new link right in the middle of it. Online pharmacy. Online pharmacy. And if we follow that link, it takes us to farmsearch.com. This is the hacker's website. This is his gold mine. He wants farm search to get high up in the rankings at Yahoo and high up in the rankings at Google. And because it's at a Washington University site, which is well known and well respected, this looks good for him. And this is another indication that he probably has downloaded all the content and typed in the name online pharmacy on his servers, and then he's delivered it back to us. So let's take one last look, and we'll run through the story one more time, so we can all see it. So a Google bot is crawling the web and it's doing its thing, and it searches for nts.woozle.edu. And then the web server is going to run it through the mod rewrite commands. It's going to fail the first one, but it's going to match the second one because it's from a search engine. So it's going to rewrite the request to look like this. It's going to add subinfo spec script, this number in the end. So now it's got a new request, which then runs the spec script, this PHP script. When the PHP script runs, it goes out to the hacker's web server. It's listed in the script. And it gets this page, the page that was originally requested, and voila, there it is. Okay, so we've gotten this far, and this took a while. This didn't happen overnight. So now one of the questions that you always ask is, well, who did this? Who's behind it? And that can be sometimes very hard to find out. But we had some things to go on. We had logs, we had IP addresses of servers. And we tried to figure out what was the motivation, what's the point of this. So there's a term called SEO, or search engine optimization. This is a legitimate thing that people do. They try to get their websites' rankings higher at Google and Yahoo. And there's different ways you can do that. It has to do with you want to be linked to lots of other people, you get to raise higher in the rankings. But like many things, it can be abused. So there's something now called black hat SEO. And the black hat SEO, it will completely undermine the legitimate rankings of these websites. So farmsearch.com really shouldn't be that high in the rankings, but because they're intentionally misleading Yahoo and Google, they're going to try to be up higher in the rankings. And the techniques that they use are called cloaking and link farms. So let's take a quick look at cloaking and link farms. So cloaking, cloaking is when you have one web page and it, oh, sorry. Star Trek people out there, not this kind of cloaking. So cloaking is when a web server returns one web page to a search engine, like to a search engine spider, but a different page to a user. So there's cloaking, and you can see on the left here, this is the original page, this is the cloaking page on the right. So he's using cloaking, and it's also an example of a link farm. A link farm is when you get all these different links, all these different pages, and they just start linking to each other, creating this web. And all these links add up in search engines like that, and they push those sites higher up. And you can see it's right there, all these 25 links, all these DreamHost sites. If you check out each site, they probably are linking back to each other. So here's his motivation. He's going to use link farms and cloaking to get his site ranked higher in Google and Yahoo. Now, interestingly, Google has wiped the page, farmsearch.com. So if you search for it, you can't find it. Yahoo did not yet. So I grabbed a screenshot of it. And there it is. This is the guy's business. This is how he's making a lot of money. There's a line in the middle here. This site is your launch pad to a vast source of pharmaceutical information and online drug companies. So that's an interesting note. We'll remember that for a later slide. So let's take a look at the way a spam enterprise might be set up. And this was, I belong to an organization called InfraGard, which is basically universities and businesses that work with the FBI. And so we meet and we talk about different presentations that they give. And so I talked to our local FBI agent in charge of cybercrime, and he gave a presentation that described a spam operation that he investigated. So this is basically the way a spam operation might look like. You have the supplier at the top. This is the guy that's making the little blue pills, wherever in the world he is. So he makes them, and he's got a few big sellers. These are the big guys at the top. And then it's the seller's job to go online and recruit the little spammers. And they go on. You can go into you can go into IRC chat rooms, and you can meet up with these sellers, and they'll give you, here's your product, here's your domain. You need to send out as much spam as you can and try to drive people to that site. So where in this diagram would our incident be placed? Where is the search engine optimization going on? Now the head honcho, the big guy, he's got his staff. He's got accountants. People have to pay the money to these sellers and spammers. They have to deliver little blue pills. So maybe he's got IT staff too. The IT staff are writing scripts like this and infecting machines and servers and working at the top. This would be very interesting because it means we might be one hop away from the head guy. Another possibility is maybe one of these spammers was assigned the domain farmsearch.com, and he just got really excited about this domain and did all this work for himself. A little less interesting because we're many hops away from the main spammer. But I think we have the first one. I think that our guy was sitting here. And because, if you remember that webpage, it said that there was a portal to all your pharmaceutical needs. Meaning, there's probably a bunch of different pharmacy sites down in here. And this guy was probably setting up farmsearch.com at the top so that all these spammers down below would benefit from it. So I think we had the guy at the top. That's my guess. But who was it? Where was it? So we had, remember the 8 IP addresses in the script. So we checked those. Now these first 3 were from logs. We went to the machine, and so where was the hacker logging in from? He logged in from England and Moscow and Moscow. The 8 IP addresses were servers located in Moscow, Severodvinsk, Moscow, Salt Lake City, Louisville, Czech Republic, Moscow, and Moscow. Now, see any patterns here? I see some patterns. Here's a map of the world with my very kludgy flags up there. So we see there's a big concentration right around here in this area of the world. So we have a good indication that we're been had by a Russian spammer. So let's do a little more research on this. Now when this hack happened, I grabbed the DNS information and the passive DNS information at the time. I wanted to know what were the names of these machines? Were these mail servers, web servers, and what were they? And the names indicated that these were actually servers. It was Nightmail. This one's called mail.by.ru. RU is the Russian country code. Cayman.ru is another web server. So the point is, these are servers, most likely, not desktops. These probably aren't some kid who's been hacked in his home machine. These are probably big servers located somewhere in Russia. So we're knee-deep in the professional spam writing. And so I started to investigate the domain farmsearch.com. And if you look at that domain, it returns a lot of information. I'll highlight the person's name. Let's see, did I highlight it? No. The person is Soldatov Maxim. That is a real person's name. When I gave my talk at EDUCAUSE, a guy at the University of Oregon came up. He's their security director. And he said, "Ah, yes, Soldatov. Ah, yes, we know him." you got hit by him, right? So that was good to hear. A couple other points is we'll look at this UA online, and we'll look at ipipe.net is the email address. So we're going to investigate those things and see where they lead us. So there's a website called Spamhaus, and it gathers lots of information about spammers. And when you search for UA online and iPipe, it returns a net block that's owned by the Russian Business Network. So the Russian Business Network is it's been in the news. It's a well-known spam operation. So Spamhaus said this on their website. The Russian Business Network, or RBN, is a long-time pharmacy spam operation which uses bulletproof hosting and botnets to host their sites. So we're pretty sure we've got the right group. So what next? So we figured out what the motivation was, pretty much understand how the hack works. How do they get out of the box? So let's go spam around. So this is a Solaris 10 machine. And Solaris 10 has a tool called dtrace, which is like a monitor tool. You can monitor all sorts of stuff. It's like the Barry Bonds of monitors. It's like a monitor on steroids. It can do anything you ask it to. So there's a script called shell snoop, which runs dtrace. And we decided to break the spec script. We broke the spec script so it wouldn't work anymore. And we ran shell snoop to see if he would log back in. So at this point, I'm working with the owners of the web server. So we break it, and then we wait a couple days, and then we got some hits. He started logging in a couple nights later. So now we watched him log in because it's logging everything he's doing. We saw how he got root and where he was hiding all his stuff. So, just like Admiral Akbar in the Rebel Alliance, we set a trap and he fell right into it. So, how did he get root? First thing he did was he SSHs into the machine as a user. He compromised this account. This user's account, I've gotten rid of the user's name to protect the guilty. He probably didn't do anything. He probably just grabbed any account he could. And then what he's doing here is he's copied a file onto the machine called ... That's the actual name of the file. So it's hard to it's very hard to see those files. You have to do a little extra work to see any file that starts with a dot. That's a pretty common technique that hackers will use to hide files. And then this file is actually an evil library. So that's what's inside. It's an evil library. And when he runs the su command, which stands for super user, he runs su. All he has to do is run that command, and now he has root. Because the su command, su command is now referring to the evil library. And the evil library tells the su, just get rid of it. So what can I learn about this ... file? So I tried to investigate it. I had to sort of dig into it. And it looks just like a hacking exploit I found on a site called Metasploit. Or not Metasploit, Packet Store. So what it's doing is it's taking advantage of an exploit in this thing called the Netscape Portable Runtime, which I have no idea what that is. It has something to do with if you want to run Netscape software on your machine, you got to have this thing. All I know is you got to patch it. If it's not patched, you're in trouble. It was not patched. Oh, there it is. It's in Millworm. So there's the actual exploit. I found it at Millworm. And you can go download the evil library yourself. You can find yourself a machine without this patch on it. You too can have root. So what did the hacker do when he got on the machine? He did a few things. He checked to see what was running on the machine, to see all the processes. He looked to see what was in cron, what's going to run every hour. He cleaned up every log files. All the log files that would have listed his connections to the machine, he tried to clean them all. But luckily we were running the Snoop script, which he didn't know about, so we had him. And he erased all the log files with his information in it. So that's a pretty common thing for hackers to do. And he changed some timestamps on files so it looked like they were older than they really were. So he was trying to throw us off. So that's the conclusion. That's the conclusion. That's the end. We got rid of all the files, patched the machine, and that was the incident. So that's how we cleaned it up. Now the question is your server safe? So there's a couple things that the web server owners can do. First is monitor your site, and there's a couple of tools out there that are great for this. Google has a tool called Google Webmaster, and you can see your web page from Google's point of view. Yahoo has the same thing called Site Explorer. This would have come in real handy. If we had been running this Yahoo Explorer tool, we could see, there's the spam junk. Michael Web Server's right. It's right there. There's another tool right here in the middle called Google Alerts. And you can use this for anything. But if you say you want to get alerted every time your website has the word Viagra, it will alert you. And you would have seen this hack. You would get an email. So that's another good tool that website owners can use. Other suggestions. Patch the machine. We have to make sure it's up to date with all the security patches. It was missing one, and that's how we got in. Another tool is Tripwire. Tripwire is going to let the administrator know when anything important changes, like the evil library. And that was added to the machine. The administrator should have known about it right away. So, patch Tripwire, patch Tripwire, patch Tripwire. There's a pattern there. Those should be on every machine on campus, for every server. Once you are hacked, if you're not running Tripwire, you have a couple options. Solaris has a fingerprint database, and you can take your files on your machine, compare them to the Sun database, and see if they're matched, see if they're the same. If they're different, maybe the hacker has changed stuff on your system. So you can either do it by hand, or you can go to their website, which will do 256 at a time. And finally, there's another good tool I really like called the CIS Benchmark. It's a completely passive tool. It doesn't change anything on your machine. It just gathers information and prints out a score out of 1 to 10. 10 means you're really safe. 1 means your machine is terrible. And it gives you line-by-line detailed analysis of what it found. So this CIS security tool probably would have found that it was not patched. These are for reference if you want to look back. The presentation is on the NSO website, nso.wusl.edu, under the presentations tab. The first two links were blogs that talked about spam compromises at other places. So those were very useful when I was doing my research. Every other link in here came from the slides. Okay, so this is the last slide, and we're finished. And 2 open questions, and then if you have any questions, you can ask. So the first open question: how did he get that evil library on the machine in the first place? It's in user lib secure. Only root can get into user lib secure. So he must have already had root when he put it on there. We were never able to figure out how he got root the first time. So that's a problem. He probably was able to take advantage of some exploit that was old, and it had since been patched, because we patched the machine was fully patched after this. second open question that I wasn't able to answer was, remember all those DreamHost sites that were listed there, the John Mott and Hidden Beach sites? If they had a similar type of hack as us, where were they going to grab those web pages? Were they going to the same 8 servers that we had? Or did he set up different servers for the DreamHost sites? Did they have their own fake pages, directory? Like maybe the DreamHost site would be 1 fake pages or 2 fake pages. So I wasn't sure how the DreamHost site fit into the larger hack. And that's what I've got. Oops. Any questions? Comments? So two points I will make. Let's see here. I want to do a couple notes here. He had root on one of the major servers on campus. He had a very nice machine, fast network, wide open network. He could have done anything he wanted. He could have grabbed passwords, could have blasted out spam, could have things to set up a phishing site. And he didn't do any of those things. He chose to do this. So this tells me that's what we want to use. We can detect a lot of these loud, noisy things, like when you blast out spam, that usually is pretty noisy. If you scan a network, it's usually pretty noisy. This was completely silent. We had no way to detect it. It was hard to detect, I should say, from a network point of view. So he was probably a good hacker. So that was my last one.
How long ago did this happen, and how long did it take you to go through this process of detecting all this?
Let's see if I can remember the timeline. I guess I was able to verify that it had been hacked at least 6 months. And then from the time I found out about it till the time we cleaned it up, it took a couple weeks. Because we had to wait for the hacker to come in. We had to investigate to see what the heck was going on. There was some time back and forth between me and the department before we finally met up and started digging into the box. And then to investigate the script took a while because it was very dense. It wasn't, no comments, it was hard to read. Trying to figure out what the heck this guy's doing, all the different cases. It probably took a couple months to go through the script. So it took a while. Sure.
I think I understand what he was trying to do, getting himself up higher on the Google, or on the search engines. But I'm not quite sure I understand how that happened, because people would, from the site, would hit the online pharmacy button, or would they try and connect with the links down below?
Well,
that
I
they
think
did see?
the way it would work is, so Google is crawling the web, and it sees Washington University site has farmsearch.com on it. Must mean farmsearch.com is pretty good, so it's going to drive it way high up in the rankings. Now, some user out there wants to get Viagra. The user is at home and types in Viagra. Farmsearch.com is probably going to be one of the top sites that comes back.
Oh, I see. Just because they were somewhere on the site with their wording.
Yep.
Oh, okay. It wasn't that somebody clicked on it to make it go move up. Oh,
Probably not.
I'm sorry.
They're just trying to piggyback on our nice name and our good reputation. Wusa.edu.
Hey, Vernon, how are these matters investigated from an international standpoint? I mean, obviously there's an ongoing problem.
Right.
Do Russian authorities go after these types of?
I've been told.
Obviously not. But
I've been told that. So I talked to some FBI agents at a conference in Baltimore a few months after this one. So I talked to them about the incident. They said that international relationships are getting better. And in the past, they've been very hard to take down these spammers. But there's a universal hatred of spam. It doesn't really matter what country you're in. We all hate spam. So countries that were previously unresponsive are now on board. So if we call Turkey right away, they'll help us. If there's a spammer in Turkey, we can usually work with them. But you're right, we have to call Turkey, and then they have to work with it on their side. So we have to give them information and let them do their job. The Russians, I've heard that a lot of their detectives, don't go after the stuff very much, unless it involves Russian people. If it involves Americans or other people, then they tend to put it on the bottom of their list. We could probably do another whole talk on the Russian Business Network.
Did he just put the extra wording on one website?
It's all 150 pages.
On the one website. So why wouldn't he have tried to push it out to STS's website?
Well, he had access to that one web server, just the NTS web server,
Oh, I see.
that one,
Okay.
nothing else.
He probably looked for vulnerabilities on the.
Right, yeah. To do this one, he needed root, and it's really hard to get root. I mean, I can't think of more than a couple root compromises we've had on campus in 4 years. Not too many.
Did you pursue, once you knew where he was coming from, pursue?
I did not, no. I mean, I told our local guy, and
Just left.
he was interested, but he didn't go after it. So with that, I'm going to do another presentation next week because this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This is the first presentation in that. Next week, the theme of the talk, this is a national campaign, National Cybersecurity Month. The national theme is our own security, our own responsibility, because we want everybody to take responsibility for their own machines and their surfing habits. So that's the national theme, and that's going to be the topic of next week's talk. We'll talk about things you can do at home, on your home network, to keep yourself safe on the internet. So things like, if you have a home, a lot of you are students, so this doesn't apply to you, but if you have a home wireless router, what can we do to secure that? We've got some Firefox add-on tips that I really like that I'll share with you that make yourself a lot more secure when you're on the web. Laptop security, everybody's got laptops, so I've got some tools to help with it. So lots of little tips. We're going to jump around. Oh, and everybody's on Facebook. We've got some Facebook tips. So we're going to jump around and have fun. We can be more interactive, I think. That's all I've got.
Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you very much. Before you go, you could fill out an evaluation form. That would be really helpful. Planning our spring trainings for STARS, so feedback is good. Read and listen to. And help yourself.